Hey, Larken Rose here. I own guns, and the reason I own guns is so I have the ability to kill human beings. I've said this before. I also really hope I can go my entire life without even having to threaten to kill a human being, much less having to actually do that. But there are situations in which I think killing somebody is actually justified in order to stop somebody from victimizing or murdering somebody else. But it's something most people don't like to think about. And I can understand that. It's not a very pleasant topic to think about. It's nice to not have to have your brain even ponder the possibility. However, we live in a world where you better hope somebody ponders that possibility, because if something bad happens where you're at, it's going to take somebody, a good guy with a gun, to stop it, or innocent people are going to suffer and die horribly. Yeehaw. But there's just a practical reality that a lot of people don't like to think about, especially when it comes to government, because the idea of disobeying authority is already uncomfortable enough for them. The idea of physically resisting authority is like, they don't nearly want to think about that. It's way too uncomfortable. And the idea of resisting by force, including deadly force, is, no, we can't even ponder that. You can't talk about that. No, we're going to vote really hard next time. And today we have one of the most glaring examples to point to is some of the insanity going on in the UK. We're going to send you to prison for a meme. Really, a meme. You're imprisoning people for a meme. So let's pause the government version for a minute and go to a normal, hopefully it isn't normal, a non-government version. Okay, there you are driving your car, somebody runs up to your window and he shows you a gun. He doesn't point at you, he goes, "Give me your car keys," and he's looking around suspiciously. You might want to give him your car keys because he might kill you if you don't. But suppose for a moment you said, well, just to be clear, are you just showing what a cool gun you have? Or did you mean, if I don't give you my car keys, you're going to kill me? Is that what you meant? Yeah. Okay. So, but what if I don't? Are you really going to kill me? Or are you just saying that, hoping that I'll hand over my car keys? Because maybe your gun isn't loaded. Maybe it's not even a real gun. Maybe you're bluffing. So can you point your gun at me so I can make sure that you would actually kill me, so I can see that it's a real gun and that it's actually loaded? So he shows me, yeah, here's the bullet. It's a revolver, so you can look through the thing and see the bullets. Okay, looks like a real gun. Feels like a real gun. Okay, so now I know my choices are give you the car keys or you're going to kill me. Or at least you're still saying that. You might still be bluffing. You might not actually intend to do that. And if I just say, no, get stuffed, you might just run away, because you'll be in a whole lot more trouble if you commit murder. You also may not end up with a car. You'll just have a dead person sitting in a car, and you'll run away and will have accomplished nothing except made yourself be in way more trouble. So maybe you're bluffing anyway. Of course, you're not really going to have such a discussion. The moment he goes, give me your car keys, would you be justified in blowing his head off? Yes. If you ask me, absolutely. To me, that obviously indicates a threat of death. Give me your stuff or I'll kill you. And a response of, if I have the ability to kill you, I absolutely would, and I would absolutely feel justified. It would also suck. It would suck to have to take a human life. But it would suck more to live in a world where people can threaten murder on people and nobody ever stops them. And if somebody is escalating it to, look, I have a thing that can kill you, they're demonstrating, they may be bluffing, but they want you to think they will escalate it to murdering you if they don't get their way. If somebody escalates things to murdering you if they don't get their way, you should probably shoot them. Because that is not a safe person to be around. It's not a safe person for anybody to be around. It's not somebody who should exist in a civilized society. Now, if there's a way to disarm somebody and, if there's a way to do it without killing somebody, that would be much better, in my opinion. But if I think my choices are maybe risk this guy killing me or I shoot him, when he's obviously trying to convey a threat of death. Like, it's not just, I saw somebody with a gun and I shot him, like the cops always do. No, he was obviously trying to communicate to me a death threat. Well, then, if I'm in a position to do it, I'm probably going to kill you. If I don't think I can easily disarm you, because I'm not going to put myself at further risk to protect you when all I know about you is you just threatened deadly force against me. Okay. Some people might go, no, I'd rather die than take a human life. Okay, you can have that opinion, whatever. But most people in that example would be like, okay, I don't find anything wrong with that. Let's go back to the UK, where you have these UK clown police showing up at people's houses. Well, you posted a thing, so will you come with us? Now, because of weird British culture, they usually don't start with pointing a gun at them and saying, come with us or we'll kill you. But it's like, you'd better come with us. Okay. Everybody knows that means we're not really asking nicely. We're going to use violence against you. But we want to pretend, and we want you to pretend, that this is civilized and proper and respectable and isn't just us threatening violence against you, even though you know it is and we know it is. But we want to put on this show that it isn't. And that's, I mean, like Monty Python and others have done an awesome job of making fun of the whole thing of pretending there's respectability in war and respectability in authoritarianism. And, well, the important thing is to be proper and civilized while engaging in immoral, violent psychopathy. But if you look at that over there, if somebody said, nah, I don't think I'm going, oh, I'm not going with you. And if you try to make me, I'll blow your damn head off. Imagine a video of that happening. First of all, I'm sure the British cops would be shocked and offended. How could you talk about such a thing? We were being civilized in our threats of violence. We weren't even admitting the violence. We were talking like, come along with us to the station. We didn't threaten violence. I mean, of course, we were threatening violence, but we didn't say so. So we count as proper and civilized, but you mentioned the violence out loud. This is something Ayn Rand was big on too, in the right direction, in Atlas Shrugged, of just, if you're gonna threaten to kill me, say that's what it is. Don't say, well, we have policies that just say, if you don't do this, we're going to use violence against you. Because that's what you're doing. Everybody knows that's what you're doing. Do you at least have the balls to say it out loud? Just say, like, if you're going to make me do it, I'm going to make you make me do it so everyone can see, oh, they just threatened violence against them to make him do it. I believe it was Hank Rearden in some scene. He was just like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend anything about this is voluntary. You're armed thugs. And if you want to just be honest, okay, at least that's something. If you say, do what I say or we're going to kill you, then say so. Don't do this muddle-headed, vague, euphemistic BS pretending it's something other than just outright thuggery. So imagine that case in the UK somewhere where somebody goes, I'm not going with you, it was a meme, and if you try to make me go with you, I'll kill you. And then they say, well, if you have a gun, is it legal? I'm not going to tell you, or no, it isn't. Get stuffed. Get stuffed. Well, then you're going to have to come with us. No, I don't. I'm here with a gun. I don't have to come with you. You might try to force me to come with you, and I might shoot you in the head. You might shoot me in the head, but I'm not going to play along with your weird pretending this is civilized when it's just a threat of violence and we all know it. But the civilized thing is for all of us to pretend it isn't that. And the thing is, the reason I bring up the UK is because it's so much weirder. Like in the US, they'll show up like Nazi thugs with their, in Gestapo routine and militarized policed vehicles and SWAT team invasions. Like, okay, the violence is pretty open and honest and obvious. Still evil, but it's not like they're hiding it. But in the UK, this weird facade they put on of, we're being civilized, we're not being violent. Although everybody knows what happens if you don't come along quietly. So you are being violent, you're just lying about it. That's not better. Like, you have all the evil of the violence, and on top of that, a massive level of dishonesty and denial about the evil you're committing. And just bringing out the escalation and making it literal makes so many people uncomfortable. If somebody says, okay, so just to be clear, you want to cage me because I posted a thing critical of somebody or whatever the case might be. Well, it's against the law and blah. Yeah, I don't care about your fluff and your euphemisms. Are you here to forcibly take me whether I want to go or not? And I mean, I'm sure you can imagine how hard they'd try to not have to say, yeah, we're going to use brute violence, including deadly violence against you if we have to, for posting a meme, whatever this stupid thing is. A hate crime because you said a word that hurt somebody's feeling. So just getting it stated literally and honestly shows the escalation for what it is, and it shows that the state is always eager and willing to escalate things to brute violence, including deadly force. The drop of a hat, for the most trivial thing, they will escalate it to brute violence. I've explained before why the red and blue lights, that's a threat of violence. It means you will stop, or our gang members will stop you by brute force. Maybe even kill you if you don't stop. Everybody knows it means that, but most people don't even think it out in logical, literal terms. They're like, oh, there's the police, I'd better stop. You'd better stop. Why? Because they won't think as highly of you? Or because they might frickin' kill you if you don't? And the weird thing is, when people are able to be honest about it, when people can give things their true names, as Confucius said, the reality of the situation becomes just transparent. Like, okay, you're threatening violence against me. If I use violence against you to stop you, does that make me the bad guy? You bastards started this. Like, this isn't the case of I attack somebody or rob somebody. It's some stupid arbitrary thing, and you mindless thugs of the state are threatening violence, and we all know, whether you're stating it openly like in the US or you hide it under euphemisms like in the UK and other places, we all know you're going to escalate it until I'm in a cage or dead, unless I can somehow get away, maybe by killing you. We all know you're going to escalate it to that point, which is why most people come along quietly, because they prefer that to dying horribly. Oh, well, we wouldn't use violence. We'd just bring in more cops who would ask nicely. If I say no to all of them, will they leave and leave me alone? And just stating the literal reality of and describing the escalation for what it is makes so many people uncomfortable, because even though the UK is sort of extreme silly version, as far as most Americans watching that, it's just kind of weird to watch them go through that. It's like they're making a play trying to pretend there isn't violence involved. But even when the violence is more obvious, if you describe it in those terms, it's less shocking to people. It's still shocking to people because they're statists. But if somebody says, oh, well, this is a raid. Why is this? Okay, you're raiding somebody's house. Why? We're here with guns. We're coming in whether you like it or not, because somebody said you were growing plants that the politicians said you're not supposed to grow. Okay, so some plants. He grew some plants. So you're at his front door with a bunch of heavily armed, power-happy, trigger-happy thugs with machine guns at his front door because of plants. If he comes out and says, you should go away because if you try to come in by force with your guns, you bunch of weird, unstable armed strangers, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to defend myself. This is my property. I didn't threaten or harm anybody. You're being authoritarian psychos, and I'm going to shoot you. If the discussion gets to the point where it's just literally honest, which you almost never hear, that can actually make more people think about it. Because when you describe it literally, it's like, okay, when you actually say what it is, but it's against the law. Well, what does that mean? Some politicians wrote some shit down, and then these thugs showed up at this guy's front door with machine guns because he grew some plants. Are they poisoning people? No, they make people high and kind of mellow and give them the munchies. See, you send a bunch of heavily armed thugs to his house? Funny how when you describe it in literally real terms, the escalation seems utterly insane. Yeah, because it always is. The nature of government is utterly insane. And if you then describe the would-be victim escalating force, saying, yeah, if you try to do this, I'm going to shoot you, it starts to sound more reasonable, which is why they never describe it that way. And instead, they're like, these people are bringing drugs into our country that have killed this many people. So there's just drugs running around and jumping on people and killing them. Or did those people choose to ingest substances that are dangerous? Because if that's the standard, that you're allowed to murder somebody if he tries to sell something to willing customers that isn't good for them, are we going to start bombing soda companies and candy companies and fast food chains? Because they sell stuff to willing customers that kill way more people than fentanyl or cocaine or pick your narcotic. Is that the standard? Well, no, because those are legal. Okay, so it has nothing to do with, it's a dangerous drug. It just has to do with politicians said not to do that. And that's all. But if you say, those guys on those boats, we think eventually they're going to do something that politicians told them not to do, so we murdered them. If you actually described it honestly, a lot of people would go, wait, what? What did you just say? That's the literal reality. They're not accused of having hurt anybody. They're not even accused of having sold drugs in the U.S. They're nowhere near the U.S. They're accused of having the intention, probably to hand them off to somebody else, and that's if you believe their story, which I don't, in order to sell them to willing customers in the U.S. Wow, so selling something unhealthy to somebody, wow, that's a death sentence. And when you describe it literally and show the violent escalation for what it is, makes people a lot more uncomfortable and makes them a lot more understanding, at least some of the time, if somebody else says, if you do that to me, I'm going to shoot you. You don't have the right to do that. Whether the context is drugs or gun control laws or taxation or we're going to steal your house because you didn't give us enough money to pay for something you didn't even want. It's like, okay, if the guy says, okay, you wanted to steal money from me to fund things I'm against, and I didn't give you the money, now you have sheriff and his deputies with guns at my front door kicking me out of the house that I bought because I wouldn't give you money to fund things I don't want and don't have any use for. Okay, you're just mafia thugs and I might shoot you. And just describing the escalation honestly is going, not everybody, not by any stretch of the imagination, but it's going to make more people go, that's kind of understandable. And the worse it gets, the more understandable it's going to look to a lot of people when the victims of state violence are just going to go, yeah, in this case, screw you. I'm going to defend myself by force. Like you've, for whatever reason, pushed me to a line where I'm like, I'd rather respond to your threats of violence with violence than play along with this stupid show. Incidentally, there's a book, it's an old book, came out ages ago by Vince Saprinowitz called The Ballad of Carl Drega, which tells a bunch of stories of people who've had too much of government bullshit in one form or another, sometimes just local bozos, and by no stretch of the imagination am I saying all of their responses were moral or justified or useful, but they basically said, I had enough. Okay, now I'm going to get nasty. And stories, you know the Killdozer guy. That story is even debatable how justified that was, although the image of a bulldozer running over police cars is exceedingly funny to me. There was nobody in the cars, so nobody died. He just screwed up their entire fleet of piggy mobiles. And some of you may know the tale of Joseph Stack down in Texas, who flew his little plane into an IRS office, and he wrote a letter about it. I've mentioned him on occasion. And even in that case, I think that was unjustified because he may very well have endangered innocent people. Not sure I'd put anybody at the IRS in the category of innocent people since they actively destroy people's lives. And he wrote a letter about that and was like, yep, here's your pound of flesh. I'm done with this crap. I'm done pretending we're civilized while you try to destroy my life. So if we're playing this game, here I come. And so I'm sure you guys know examples of that. But the last thing in the world the state can ever afford to allow is for the violence and their escalation to be honestly discussed widely and publicly, and for the people to start to say, yeah, if somebody resists that escalation, if they resist by force, they're justified to do that. And they know we're about this far from that happening in a lot of different cases where, I mean, you already can see people saying under stories of, oh, a cop was killed in the line of duty. Well, was he being a fascist asshole? Like, you can see people commenting is like, we're not going to take it on faith that he wasn't being an evil bastard and deserved it. And a state is a ruling class is in serious trouble if the human livestock not only see through the euphemisms and recognize the violence and the escalation tactics that the state always uses for it, but start to sympathize with people who say, yeah, if you try that on me, I'm going to kill you. If you try to disarm me, I'm going to kill you. If I'm growing some pot plants and you come in and you do this, I'm going to kill you. You know, whatever the particular thing is of people they've been victimizing who aren't threatening and harming anybody. When you get to the point where a lot of normal people are starting to go, yeah, I could sort of see a situation in which maybe shooting the thugs of the state is justified. Like, the ruling class is going to be pissing itself when they realize a lot of the livestock is talking about forcibly resisting us. And when you get to that point, it means you don't have control of their minds anymore. They don't feel obligated to obey you. They might be too scared to resist. They might not dare to resist. But if they're going rah, rah, rah for somebody else who does, you're about that far away from having a full-scale revolution. Because if somebody resists and his neighbor goes, yeah, I'm going to go help him. Like, big risk, but screw all that. At some point, we have to stand up. Suddenly, you might have 5 million other neighbors saying, yeah, we're going to do that too. And that's when a ruling class collapses. They usually desperately grab for power, and then there's a revolution and a shootout and stuff. Sometimes they just back off because they know they can't win, but they're usually too stupid and power happy to do that. But when the mentality gets to the point where the normal people view reality as it is, see state violence for what it is, see the escalation tactics for what they are, and start to go, yeah, I can see why some people might decide to resist this by force, the state's in deep doo-doo. By the way, all you people in the UK and Australia, well, pretty much anywhere in the world, you need to teach your ruling classes to fear you, because right now they don't, and they're stomping all over you. The day they realize we may have gone too far and these people may just exterminate us is the day you won't get those stupid limey bastards showing up going, you're gonna have to come with us. No, I'm not. Leave or die. And until that happens, the facade of this is just civilized law enforcement will continue. But when it happens that people stand up and other people, and it isn't just one or two here and there, and other people recognize it and go, yeah, it might be time for that. Things can swing very quickly, very drastically, and any empire can kind of end in a heartbeat if enough people go, yeah, I guess we've had enough of their authoritarian, violent bullshit. Maybe it's time to make them stop. So, how close are we to that? Remains to be seen, but I don't think it's all that far away.